And the best hope for the dollar is to become a high-valued currency in the basket of currencies that is in BRICS Pay. I'm not a financial advisor. That's the way that I see it going. I just don't think there's no American patriotism. There's not like, hey guys, in the last minute, Donald Trump will save us. No, Donald Trump's probably the one that's going to give us the CBDC and we're going to ask for it.
Well,
So
you're the
that's
first
how I feel.
person. You're the first person that I've heard say something that I find intriguing. And if indeed we ever did get that invitation, Project Enbridge makes a very big point of saying that it has the technology to be able to integrate things such as the SWIFT system or XRP or whatever,
XRP for sure.
whatever systems that's highly integratable. And I would add to what you said earlier about why these countries are buying gold. The biggest reason to me is the weaponization of the treasury market. Say what you want. We stole $5 billion from Russia. It's stealing. It's not sanctioning. When you take it,
sanctions is why we're here. This is why we're here. It's all we do to try to fix it is more sanctions, and it doesn't work.
They took the assets and bought weapons to give to the Ukraine. And when you go across that line as the world reserve currency, you had Janet Yellen a month ago do an interview on CNBC and say, we're okay with Putin and Xi being friends. And my initial thought was, well, that's very benevolent of you, Madam Secretary. Thank you. But if Xi gives one penny to the Russian war machine, we will sanction their companies, their banks in Beijing itself. But, forget about the fact we've given 260 billion Javelin missiles, F-16s, and intelligence on where to fire it without any congressional oversight. We don't matter because we're the world reserve currency. Our what doesn't stink. But we can go around the world and make these sanctions, but to confiscate Russian funds, flat out take them, steal them, and give them to the Ukraine in the form of munitions is outright idiocy. And it is that has woken up, I think, the world. It's one thing to tell the linchpin of the hegemony, the petrodollar, Saudi Arabia. It's our protection of the Saudi kingdom that has given us this exclusivity where, to your point, everyone's had to stockpile dollars. They've had to stockpile them since 1974 in order to buy oil. That was the deal. They held them prior to that, the Bretton Woods Agreement, of course, and we saw Nixon close the gold window because de Gaulle from France was draining all the gold at $35 an ounce. That was the promise. Our currency used to be backed by gold. Government could turn in any amount they want at $35 an ounce and get gold. That ended. Then we got the petrodollar. That would have been called Bretton Woods II. And now, as Zoltan Pozsar says, who's one of the smartest men I've ever known as well, he used to work at the New York Fed. He understands the plumbing of the system better than anyone. He's at UBS now. He says we're in Bretton Woods III, a system that will be about commodities. You said he who has the gold makes the rules. I would say he who has the commodities makes the rules. Look what China's done. China bought the London Metal Exchange, which is not the LBMA. The LBMA is precious metals. The LME is base metals. They own it. Copper, zinc, lead, and they are now...
Quick question about that. Is that the same exchange that they sanctioned Russia from being able to put any more metals on there? Did you hear about that story where they got sanctioned?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was, and that's not going to change anything because Russia just backdoors things, and China still has a measure of protocol that must keep in place.
So, I just want to be clear on this. Are you saying that Russia got sanctioned by the United States and England on a metals exchange that's in London that's owned by China?
Correct. And I don't know what type of veto rights China has to any of that. They're doing everything backdoor anyway. If they want to keep it, they have to maintain the protocol. But they're now warehousing metals in China that are traded on the LME. I mean, you can see this progression with their Belt Road, the largest infrastructure project in human history. They are going around the world and industrializing all of these African and South American countries and bringing their commodities and their natural resources to the market cooperatively. They are striking deals all around the world. All of the countries that are joining the BRICS are resource rich or very much integral to trade routes or shipping lanes. So it's all about commodities is what I'm getting at. And when you look at a treasury or the debt of a country, we're almost 200 trillion in debt. Trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. We have 34, almost 35 trillion in debt, but that doesn't take into account 99 trillion underfunded in Medicare Part B, 22 trillion in Medicare Part D, 77 trillion in Social Security. So the numbers are too big. And this is a game that I don't think ends well at all. We are a broke and insolvent country. We are going around the world sanctioning and stealing assets. We're not looked at the way we once were internationally. And then you look at what's happening here at home, and you have to cross your eyes and say, what the hell's going on in this country with the election, the judicial system, the lawlessness, the wokeness, all of these things that make people say, and the fact that we're more divided than we've ever been, we're not united. It makes it easier for these countries to say, well, on top of being hypocritical, broke, and tyrannical, the way that they go in and do these things coercively instead of cooperatively. And then I want to just, make a statement to your listeners that I am the least likely person to have ever succeeded. I am the embodiment of the American dream. 34 years ago, I started this company in a one-room office with my dad with a loan from a friend. And, we've eclipsed 10 billion in sales without a customer complaint. I love this country. And I thank God every day I was born here. But what is happening to it, what is the direction that we are being taken, where we let 18 million people in here illegally? What immigration system? If 1% of those people want to do harm on this country, that's 180,000 people. How about 5%? That's bigger than any standing army. The things that we have done are so stupid, it's not even funny. And by weaponizing the dollar and the treasury market, by signing executive order to go green, by destroying our immigration, our judicial system, our electoral system, all in question, the lawlessness. You got this, all of these mayors in the big cities that don't prosecute for shoplifting or larceny or drug possession. And you got this Michelle Wu, I think her name is. She's the first Asian American woman mayor in Boston. She wants to do all of these same non-prosecutable laws, including the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If you break into someone's home that's unoccupied because you need to sleep or cold, you don't do damage, it's non-prosecutable. So you take your wife on a trip for a few weeks camping somewhere up in the mountains, you come back and there's someone sleeping in your bed and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. And we've lost our bearing. And I think that's not lost on the rest of the world either. So this push away from the dollar, I think it's interesting that Jared Bernstein advocates for losing the reserve status. So you weaponize the dollar, you sign executive order to go green, and you make everyone around the world say, what the hell is going? Look at the president in the election last night. I mean, I think
Yeah.
in the debate, I think they rolled him out there knowing his handlers had to have known how inept he is, and that he would make a fool of himself. And now they're going to come and say he's got to go. They'll usher in someone behind door number 2, Michelle or
I don't
Hillary
think so.
or what's his name? What's
Everything
his
you're
name?
saying is good. We have a lot of the same values, is what I'll tell you for sure. Hard work, come from nothing, American, love the country, you hate the way it's going. But you mentioned one thing specifically. There's not a side of our country that's doing this to us. It's people above our
Yeah,
government's pay grade. If you've ever read Creature from Jekyll Island, you know who runs this
I
country
have.
and who runs this world. And I think a lot of times when we have the presidential debate, it's so easy to make fun of Joe Biden because he's awful. Like, I can't imagine watching this guy try to give a press conference again ever. But I believe he's not going to get replaced. They knew what they were doing. He's going to lose because they want Trump in, so that way we will ask for the CBDC. If Biden or Gavin Newsom is in charge, when when whatever crisis comes up that's going to give us the CBDC, people like we would never go for it. We'd be like, no way, that's not even possible. And Trump said no CBDC. So when he comes to us and says, guys, there's no other choice, it looks like we have to do this, we're going to say, we understand. There are entities above our country. And you mentioned it with woke. Woke is a very important concept because the idea that countries can go woke, or that companies can go from woke to broke, is actually not true at all. The more woke they get, the more tax benefits they get, the higher their ESG score goes, which means they'll get more investment. Companies in the United States are incentivized, and in Europe even, because they have ESG scores as well, are incentivized to make their customers mad. Because guess what? You're making more money from the WEF, what they've set up, right? Which is under BIS, but the WEF, what they've set up, you're making more money doing that.
But
That's why the
ultimately
woke
putting
growth thing
yourself out of business.
exactly. So, and it also provides companies like Target, for instance, with incentive to not care what your customers think, because your customers don't like your new modeling pictures up there. Well, they can go away. We can actually get the same amount of money with less customers, and it's easier for everybody. And so I think when we really do this thing where we tend to think it's like the super leftist people in this country that are doing this to us. No, it's the entities that do not like to be named that are above BIS. This is what they want. They've wanted the downfall of America ever since 1971, for sure. That's when the WEF was created. This was all designed to happen this way, in pattern and rhythm with the normal way that superpowers and reserve currencies fall, because we're at the end of our cycle.